Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica and I'm your host, and you can follow me on Twitter at @It'sJessinho. What a game. What a game. Look, I can't complain. That game was absolutely nuts. Germany 4, Portugal 2. Portugal scored 4 goals. But, I mean, hey, look at the score. Those were 2 own goals. Look, I think Germany really needed that performance. They needed it very badly. And I think it wasn't just a performance where they got something out of the game. I think they actually showed that they may have something to add to this competition, to this tournament. And so for me, even though I wanted Portugal to win, I think this makes the tournament so much more interesting. Who doesn't love a tournament with a good Germany in it? Like, you know what I mean? So even though this isn't Germany of old, we obviously know this isn't, the team of 2014, but they still have something to prove and they still have something to add. So overall, I really enjoyed the game. And so if you guys are in the chat box, let me know if you guys are watching. Where are you guys watching in from? Did you get your prediction right? I got my prediction way wrong. I said 2-1 Portugal, and, I was nowhere near it. So we're going to talk about all those things. And yeah, I mean, the way I want to do the show is, just kind of piggybacking off of what Arsenal Vision does for their instant reaction, because I'd like to do player ratings, but that would just be too long with 2 teams. What we're going to do is we're going to do stock falling and stock rising. And so essentially we'll pick a player, a coach, an idea for stock rising, and the same thing for stock falling. And then I want to kind of look at the group and see kind of what the 2 results from today, France drawing with Hungary, and this 4-2, result for Germany, how that changes the dynamics of the group and what could potentially happen because of it. So yeah, a really, really good game to start off watch-alongs for. If you guys were on the watch-along, I really appreciate you guys for being there. That was super fun. And yeah, the match reaction, hopefully we have a good time with this as well. Before I forget, I just want to let you guys know that, for Arsenal people that are watching this, at 10 p.m. UK time, Eddie, I know you'll be asleep. You always tell me that that's past your bedtime. But at 10 p.m. UK time, we'll be doing a player profile for Andre Silva, who's been linked with Arsenal. So we'll be talking about the potential, what kind of player he is, his player profile, what the deal would look like, how that's going to affect Martinelli / Balogun, and just all those types of things. So we'll get into the nitty gritty of that particular player. So make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on anything else. Now, let's just start off with the stock falling for this game. So 4-2, and we'll go over the goals really quick. So Ruben Diaz got credited for the first own goal. So Cristiano Ronaldo scores in the 15th minute. Then Ruben Diaz scores an own goal in the 35th minute. Rafael Guerrero comes and scores a very similar goal to what Mats Hummels did against France in the 39th minute for another own goal. Then Kai Havertz scores, Gosens scores, and then Diego Jota scores. So lots and lots and lots of goals. So my first stock my first stock rising, I'm going to go stock rising first, is Gosens. I think we can all probably say that he was man of the match. There's nobody really else there that I feel like you can give that to because of his influence on pretty much every single goal that happened. You could see that Germany was really playing towards, making sure that Portugal was really shifted onto their left-hand side, create numbers over there, switch the ball over to the left-hand side, and let Gosens and Havertz have numbers against Semedo. It happened many times and they never really addressed it. So Gosens really had a very dominant performance on that left-hand side and was creating absolute havoc for the Portugal back line for, in offense. And I just thought the guy was really good. At the beginning of the game, I was kind of talking about him because he really impressed me in the first game, even though they lost against France. And what he's really good at is being another goal threat. And it's really difficult with your wing backs because sometimes they can be, good players, but they don't really offer a goal threat. He's completely different than that. We see that from like somebody like Hakimi. He's doing that on the left-hand side. And he may not be as technically gifted as a Hakimi, but man, he is effective on that left-hand side. So he's definitely my stock rising and my man of the match, 110%. I do think that Kai Havertz and Gnabry had an amazing game. I think their performance was in stark difference to what they did against France, where they just seemed to look a little bit disjointed and maybe not comfortable in what they were trying to do. Today, in the front line, everything kind of came together and their attack looked very, very fluid. Gnabry and Havertz were wreaking havoc on that Portugal back line, as well as Gosens coming in those late runs into the box. So as a group, I thought Germany was really good, but I thought Gosens really added that extra touch. He's very aggressive getting into the box, and I like that about him. So he's somebody that I think is tacking on some zeros on the end of his transfer value because he's had 2 really good games, and this one he really, really looked good. So you guys let me know about the first stock rising for Gosens. Austin says, Gosens, man of the match for sure. 2 goals, or 2 assists and 1 goal. Overall, great team performance from Germany. Exactly. I mean, Semedo just couldn't handle him. Semedo got torched. Exactly. Mike Dubia says, my game prediction was way off. Exactly. Mine was as well. Eddie Longbridge, hey. And Austin says, great watch along. Thank you so much. So Gosens for me he was magnificent. I mean, there's nothing else you can really say about it. And, I haven't really seen a lot of Gosens because, to my knowledge, he plays for Atalanta in Serie A. Does he not? Yeah, he does. So that's not a league that I watch very often. But, as we're getting through this tournament, I'm noticing that maybe I should be watching Serie A more. When you see, players like Locatelli playing and Barella, and what Italy's doing, who has a lot of players, obviously, that play in the Italian league, plus, players like Gosens that are showing that there's something there in that league that I really hadn't been looking at. I hadn't really ever paid attention to. And, obviously, like Harry Symeou has said it, Mike Hurst was saying it, as well as Kelly, who comes on the show sometimes as well, that they're avid watchers of Serie A. And they're happy to see that maybe the Euros is giving Serie A a platform to be noticed, So I think that's something to really take into consideration. Gosens is 26 years old. I mean, you would think how new he feels that he would be a lot younger, but he's 26, and I'm not sure if he's looking for a move or he would want to move, but the way he's playing, I wouldn't be surprised if some teams came knocking because good left backs are very hard to find. Right backs, they're easier to find, but really good left backs are very difficult to come by. Right now, he's on transfer market for $35 million, and I'm sure with performances like that, he's going to tax some pounds and euros on that. So the guy had a very, very good performance. Robert says, with Arsenal watch-alongs, will there be more shouting involved, like you moron types comments from the host? Probably. I've already told you guys that's me watching Arsenal is completely different. So, but I'll try to be as nice as possible. Eddie said, I like Renato Sanchez. He should come to Arsenal. He was brilliant. We'll talk about him as well. Yeah, so that's my first stock rising. So my first stock falling is going to be Portugal's right side. So that comes directly from what Gosens was able to do. Now, Gosens he was killing their right-hand side. And I'm not just saying Semedo because it's not just Semedo. It's a combination of Pepe, Semedo, and the three people that played as right forwards in that team, because none of it was working. Nobody was tracking. Nobody was talking. And a lot of what Gosens was doing was coming in the first half. So I couldn't believe that they came out in the second half and right away the same thing was happening. Gosens was ghosting into the box and was wide open on transition for Germany, that like Semedo was getting sucked in so much. And I'm like, Pepe is an experienced center back. He should be able to tell his wing back where to go and figure it out, or his right back where to go. And then at the same point, Semedo should have enough, he should be able to sense danger enough to let, your Rafa Silva / Bernardo Silva / Renato Sanchez, all three that played in front of him throughout that game, to come back and help him out, because he wasn't able to. Kai Havertz would basically have Semedo and Pepe tied up, and Gosens is just hanging out there. So my stock falling is the entirety of Portugal's right-hand side. And they really have to figure this out, because Mbappe tends to play off of the left-hand side. France was watching this game probably like, wow, we're just going to target this Semedo guy. He's dead. He cannot sense danger. And for a team like France, who's very good on their left-hand side with Mbappe, I'm looking at that like, if they don't figure it out, they could easily be, third in the group / maybe even out of the tournament, depending on what happens in those last games. So, the right-hand side of Portugal was just totally dead today. I mean, I don't think the left-hand side painted itself in any glory. I think Guerrero, we all kind of know, is a attacking left back, and that's pretty much it. But the right-hand side was a weakness. And, we're kind of talking about this during the watch along, Semedo, like, is he better than Cedric? No, he's not. Semedo, just because he played for Barcelona, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good player. And for me, he lacks a lot. I've seen some Arsenal fans saying, why didn't we get Semedo? He would have been a good right back. Today's performance should have showed you that. And even the way Pepe skinned him, when we played against them, I would just say he's not good enough, and they need to figure that out. So let me know what you guys think in the chat box about Semedo and his performance, and just Portugal's right-hand side in general was just not good. So, there's Sean. Hey, nice to see you. Austin says Semedo is a dud. I mean, he was just not good. Austin also says Germany came for blood. Yeah, they did. It was a very good game, but wow, Portugal have some thinking to do. They really, really do. So my second stock rising is actually, it's not a player and it's not a coach. My stock rising is Germany's position in this tournament. I think what they've done today has shown the entire tournament and everybody watching that you need to be watching this Germany team. Before the tournament even started, I said that I just think we need to watch Germany. I know they're in the group of death, but I never thought this group was going to go the way everybody had kind of planned it out. They had said France first, Portugal second, Germany third, Hungary fourth. And I knew it wasn't going to come out like that, because it never does. So I think my stock rising is Germany's position in this tournament, because I think they are rapidly rising to somebody that needs to be watched, because if they can get a result, against Hungary, I mean, they're second in the group now, so they could come second in the group, and depending on what happens, France or Portugal could be in, bad shape, so it's interesting. It's very interesting, but I think Germany's position in this tournament has shifted because of this performance. You put 4 goals away against Portugal in a game that a lot of people said that they thought Portugal would win, sends a very, very clear message to everybody coming up against Germany for the next couple of games. I think they easily go through to the next round. I see them. I think they'll beat Hungary. I think Hungary's been difficult to beat, but I think Germany will let this momentum snowball, and I think they're a lot stronger than people think. When you have players in your team like Hummels, like Mueller, like Kimmich, like Cruz, you can never count these teams out. Those are they are actual winners. Like, they've won things before, and I just always count on even players like Mueller and Kimmich to get in that locker room and galvanize this team and to solve problems on their own. Portugal lacked the ability to solve very glaring issues on the pitch. And once you cross the line, at a certain point, players need to step up and make decisions and say hey, you need to stay back. You need to protect me. And that wasn't happening. And I see Kimmich, Mueller, and these players being able to solve problems on the pitch, to make decisions, and to, get things going. So I really think Germany has changed the perception of them in this tournament. I don't think they're going to win it, but I think they'll go a lot further than people think, and they need to be watched because they're still quite dangerous, even though they're not the team of old. So what are you guys saying in the chat box? Sean says, the reason we all love football is because of its unpredictability, but fans have biases, which is understandable. Exactly. I never thought this game this group was going to go as planned, and I'm happy it's not, because we get to see things change and shift before our eyes, and that is why we love the game, because of its unpredictability. You're 100% right about that. Austin says, Gosens was upset he didn't get Ronaldo's shirt last time they met and used this match as revenge, apparently. So he chose violence. I love that. Sean says, it will be no fun if you know what's going to happen. Exactly. Austin says, oh, there's two Austins in the chat. I think people were quick to write Germany off because they went out early in the last World Cup. This is a different team with more complete players and experience. I mean, yeah, you just can't count them out. You just can't count them out. I mean, if you look at them on paper, I know we think France is this and Portugal is that, and they are they're great teams. But Germany have a lot of proven winners in their team. You know what I mean? Repeat winners, even from World Cups to what they do in Germany for Bayern Munich, they have really good players. Cruz for Real Madrid. So you really can't count them out. And I think they showed that today. Eddie says, tournament football is about efficiency and being well organized. Germany are masters of this. Yeah. And that's one thing is, I forgot who said it. I think it was Kaya. And he was saying that the team that usually wins the tournament, or teams that go far, aren't necessarily the teams that play the best football. It's about getting the results. And tournament football, like you said, is so different than league football, where you need to have these consistent performances. In tournament football, you just need to get the job done. And we saw that Germany was able to do that. And I don't necessarily feel I think they played okay, but it's when you look at somebody like Spain, who's just so known for playing beautiful football. We don't need that right now. You need to figure out how to score goals. And Germany was able to do that. They got 2 own goals and 2 decent, goals that were pretty, standard, just nothing like poetry in motion type of things. So I do agree with that tournament football is very much about efficiency and organization. And Germany did have that today. All right. So my second stock falling is probably no surprise, but it's Bruno Fernandes. I mean, I rate the guy. I think he's a good player, but he tends to do this in big games where he just doesn't show up. I would be interested to see what his touch map looked like and how many touches he actually had throughout the game. But a player of Bruno Fernandes' infamousy, somebody that people really talk about a lot, should be putting his mark on the match. I think even though Portugal were definitely second best, you can say that Diego Jota did something, Renato Sanchez did something, Ronaldo did something, they tried. But Bruno Fernandes just wasn't getting on the ball. He wasn't really spurring his team on. And it's something that we see quite often, when he plays for Manchester United, that in big games, he just doesn't really show up. And this is another, note, to put in the notebook. He didn't show up for Portugal against Germany. And he's the type of player that can can make things happen and make a difference. So I think having him kind of on the periphery of this game really hurt Portugal. And still, it just more questions around his ability to really push on in hard games, So he was not great. He did not really touch the ball. He didn't do much. And that's not good for a player of Bruno Fernandes' standards. He has to be we have to be talking about him, and it's not even like he played bad. He was so on the periphery that it's almost like he forgot he was there. And I think that's worse than having a bad game, if that makes sense, so not letting him get away with this one. He needs to be more involved. He was just not there. Sean says, just like Arsenal and Cups for 5-6 knockout games, but no consistency over 38 games. Exactly. And you even kind of saw that with, Manchester City is a very good league team, like a very good league team. You look at the difference between them and Chelsea when they got into the Champions League final. Chelsea had a very good, as Eddie said, a efficient and organized way of winning games in a knockout tournament. They didn't really have that same edge in the league, but you can just see the difference. Manchester City is very much so a league team. That's the type of, you need to have a style of play. It needs to be consistent. It has to be sustainable. And what Chelsea did at the end of their season and in the Champions League in particular is they had a really good, efficient, organized method of winning knockout games. So it's hard to be both. It's really hard to be both. But this is a cup competition and it's about getting the results, not necessarily about playing pretty football. That's secondary to everything. Austin says, just off topic, if Arsenal was to win the league again, would you cry? Of course I would. Of course I would. Yeah, of course I would. If we won the league, of course I'd be crying, Man, if we came in 4th place next season, I'd probably cry, if I'm honest. Yo-Yo says, Bruno isn't who people believe him to be. Far cry from Rui Costa and João Felix. I think he's so good against small teams. I think that's really what it is. His efficiency is really, and his stats are really, I hate to say padded, but he kind of stat pads against smaller teams. He's able to get the result against them. But when you play against higher level competition, which is what's required, because for Manchester United and Portugal, you're expected to do big things. And so when he plays against bigger teams, he kind of falls away. So his inability to impose himself on bigger competition is something that really needs to be looked at. If Manchester United / Portugal want to do big things, they need to have players that show up in big games. And right now, he's just not that guy. He really does. I hate to say that, but he stat pads against smaller teams. And although I think he's quality, there's another level that he needs to get to. He's already 26 years old. When is he going to unlock that part of his game? Fernandes is a strange case, good and bad at the same time. Exactly. And he also, for a lot of people, doesn't pass the eye test. Football has really become, and I don't know if you guys saw Thiago's his tweet. He had a quote that came out about how players are now today, and he doesn't really enjoy football as much because modern football is so it's so statistic driven, and there's not a lot of fluidity and free flowing, and just we lost a lot of that in teams trying to become more efficient. And so players are stronger, they're faster, and you don't really have to use skill to be better anymore. It's just about being stronger and faster and stuff like that. And he probably saw a lot of that, to be honest, in the Premier League. The Premier League doesn't really have the most silky ballers, if that's what you want to call it. If you look at Serie A and La Liga, you'll probably see some more beautiful football. But in the Premier League, it's very about efficiency, because I think the stakes are higher. You have to be more clinical. And so you find different ways to have that effective edge. So bringing it back to Bruno Fernandes, it's just, he's a very effective player when it comes to playing against lower level opposition. He can get the job done. But in terms of eye test, he's not really nice to watch because he's pretty basic with his passing. It's not really he's doing anything. He's very efficient, but he doesn't pass the eye test. So I don't actually enjoy watching Bruno Fernandes play. Would I like to have a Bruno Fernandes in my team? Yes. But do I like watching Bruno Fernandes play? No. And it's the difference between watching him and watching Jack. Jack is less efficient than Bruno Fernandes, but Jack passes our eye test. And I think that's kind of like a hard thing to come to grips with as football fans, because we all fall in love with the beautiful game, but it's becoming so much more about efficiency. When you have that, it takes away the beautiful part of it. Let's see. Yeah, he couldn't score against us. Robert says, Jess, is there a cutoff point that you would stop supporting Arsenal? Kroenke piss you off, or else you stick to the club for life? I'm a lifer. I just feel like this is what I love. I'm in a relationship with this club. Like, although I hate it sometimes the club feels like a cheating bastard and I want to leave. I'm not going anywhere because I just love it so much, So unless we were all, and it wouldn't stop my support, but the only way I would stop watching Arsenal and buying merchandise and all of that is if the fans came together collectively and decided we really wanted to get Kroenke out. And that's when I would, and it would have to be a very big collective effort from everybody involved, content creators, fan support groups. Everybody would have to come together and try to really hurt Kroenke and try to get them out. But in terms of just like in general, like probably not. If we went down to the championship, I would still support my club, like, and hope that we got back up. That's what I love about football is like you have to be committed, like American sports, you don't have to be committed because there's nothing you're really worried about. The stakes aren't really that high. There's not a lot of jeopardy involved. With football, it's a lot more jeopardy. Here's a super chat from Kufri saying, thank you so much for your super chat. And Kufri says, are you playing Euro 2020 fantasy? If so, who's doing well for you this week? I don't. So I hate to let you down there, but I've been getting some requests to do like FPL for next season. So I'm working together with my really good friend Jason, who's like a wizard at FPL. And we're going to be putting together a show for next season that's going to come out every week. We'll be talking about our picks and how you should be picking your team in order to get the most out of your FPL. So that will be coming next season for the Premier League. But as of now, I'm not involved with any fantasy right now. Yo-Yo says the Bruno myth is built on Manchester United's affinity with the officials. You mean getting the penalties? I mean, the amount of penalties that they get, the decisions that they get is kind of astronomical. It doesn't make sense, but yeah, I mean, if you take away his penalties, he's not as prolific as maybe people would think, but at some point he's going to have to start actually performing in these big matches, and it doesn't seem like he's getting it. Sean says, that's true. When I fell in love with the game, I didn't care about statistics. Zidane was my idol, and I don't know his stats. I mean, a lot of people always say that, like, Dennis Bergkamp's stats were never very good, but we still think Bergkamp was really a great player because he was. And so we're very driven by statistics. And, they even spoke about, like, it's been spoken about that, like, even players at the end of games, they get almost like a piece of paper or a report on how good their passing percentages and things were that were. So that's why you get players like Granit Xhaka and El Neni that don't do very high stakes passes. Like, I won't really count Granit Xhaka in that because towards the end of the season, his progressive passing did become better. But there was a point in time where you could tell that the players wanted to keep their possession stats up. They don't want to be looked at the guy that does the risky passes and has 78% pass completion. They wanted to make sure that they were getting 90-something%. So statistics is seeping in to the game so much that players are looking at it because it's almost like that's how you're seen as a good player is if you have really good stats. And it's not just that, so I do agree. If we looked at some of our favorite players from back in the day stats, we'd probably be like, ooh, they'd probably be looked at as bad players now, but they're not. Eddie says, football matches are becoming more coached now. Arteta is a prime example of that. Yeah, they're very much more about efficiency. That's where patterns of play really come in, positional play, and making things very repetitive and repeatability of things. It's kind of like, like lines, like when you have lines in a company or in a warehouse or whatever, and people are doing like putting things together to increase the efficiency. Like one person does this, one person does that. You increase the efficiency instead of having one person do the entire project. That's kind of how football has become. And I think it goes back to the stakes being so high, especially in the Premier League, there's so much money wrapped up in it that clubs are trying to figure out ways to be able to predict the success of their club based on certain factors. So if you know a player's statistics inside and out, you know how they behave and what they could potentially give you as a player, then you limit the chances of them becoming a dud and not working out because the stakes are just too high. So when you have repeatability and efficiency on your side, and you take away the guesswork of having a player that may show up one day, may not show up the next, you know that this pattern of play is going to get you this result. And if you just do it a certain amount of times, you'll eventually get the goal. I think clubs are going more towards that because then they can kind of predict what the outcomes will be, and they can make sure that they can count on a certain level of success, if that makes sense. So if you don't have a team like the Invincibles, or you don't have the '08 team of Barcelona, it's hard to give players, and even the '08 team of Barcelona was quite patterned, as well. So maybe that's not a good example, but if you don't have, prime Arsenal Invincibles, or, the Ronaldo Brazil team, of that time, you can't really predict how the team is going to perform if you don't have patterns of play involved, so I think that's why it's more robotic, is because they want to be more efficient so that they can guarantee a certain level of success. And it takes away from what we love about the game. Sean says Stat DNA and FIFA have ruined fans' opinions on players. Sean says the reporters in the NBA at press conferences give players the stat sheets. I hate that. Exactly. Robert says, wait a second, Austin, you don't have relegation. Yo-Yo says it's ruined the Cristiano Messi debate. There's no debate in the better player based on watching them, but people use statistics to justify their bias. And I do take that. I take that in because it's very true. If you just watch Ronaldo and watch Messi, you probably were like, okay, watch this player and watch this player. And then based on what you've seen, who do you want to watch again? You'd probably say Messi if you didn't know anything else about the players. But Ronaldo, because his numbers and statistics are so good and he's so consistent, you can put them on the same playing field based on that. But the way that they play is so different, and the natural talent is so different. So I hope I'm making sense when I say that clubs have tried to figure out a way to be able to guarantee a certain level of success by using statistics and repeatable patterns of play to try to, they don't want players to think, because when players get to think, then you can't really predict what's going to happen. So they want to take that away. You have somebody like Ronaldinho out there, you can't really predict what's going to happen. But when you have Pep at the wheel, and you have your Iniestas and Xavis and these guys that have great technical ability, but you have them doing repeatable patterns of play, and nobody's really going out of getting out of the box, then you can kind of predict what's going to happen. And so it's taken away, because even sometimes when I'm watching City, if it's not working, it's really horrible to watch. When you watch them play and things aren't going the way that they are planning it to go, they're actually really hard to watch, because they're not able to solve problems on their own, because it's plan A and do plan A better, and Arteta's pretty much like that as well. So when players aren't able to think on their own, when the plan breaks down, they tend to just kind of like slump. And I think that's kind of what you saw in the Champions League final, where plan A didn't work and there was no ability to think on their own because they're so used to doing things and it was shut off, that they just looked bad. But when plan A doesn't work and your only other thing is do plan A better, it just doesn't work. It's very hard to watch sometimes. Yo-Yo says it's real. Yeah, you said that. Yo-Yo says the success of Moneyball ushered this wave of sports science. And Philosopho says, and you have the Brazil and Portugal thing. Yeah. Sean says it's a percentages game, no more street ball style like Ronaldinho, hence why Neymar gets so much hate. Exactly. Neymar is the last of his kind. When he's gone, it's done. I don't really see that level of, that free football type of thing really happening anymore. And it's just people don't want to, because it's just the stakes are just too high. If you let Neymar just run the game, you don't know what you're going to get. And I like watching Neymar play for Brazil because he has that ability to just play the way that he wants to play. He does still do his little flops and all that kind of stuff, but he's so much more free, in Brazil. And I miss that. You guys know Ronaldinho is my favorite player, and I love statistics, and I love, analyzing that part of the game, but I also like to use my eye test, and some of this is just hard to watch because it's just so methodical and so almost sterile in a way. So exactly. So yeah, we did our stock risings and stock fallings. Again, my stock risings was Gosens. My other stock rising was Germany's position in this tournament, as I think that they will kind of, some people are looking at them a little bit different based on this game. My stock fallings was Bruno Fernandes because he was so non-existent in this game, as well as Portugal's entire right side. That includes Pepe, Semedo, and the three players that played in front of him, which were Rafa Silva, Bernardo Silva, and Renato Sanchez at different points in the game. Really good match. And if we look at the table for that group, things are getting really interesting. A lot more interesting than I think a lot of people thought. This is now an open race. It's open now. If you look at the group, now you have France sitting at the top of the group, obviously because they won and they drew. You have Germany now second in the group, which is where I think that they will finish. I think they will beat Hungary. And depending on what happens with France and Portugal, we'll see what happens, But Portugal now falling to third in the group, not a good look. Not a good look at all. Goal differential looking mad. Goals against looking pretty bad, and so they have to figure it out. I think they're lucky that they got 2 goals in this game to keep Hungary a little bit further away. Just imagine if they hadn't scored those 2 goals, where they'd be, because based on what happens, they're just leaving things up to fate now. It's pretty dire for them. They need to beat France, and if they draw, if they draw and Hungary beat Germany, which I think is unreasonable, can Hungary and Germany draw? It's just looking a little bit like now we're not really sure what's going to happen, whereas a lot of people thought that the group was going to come out a certain way. So based on my original predictions, I thought one of France or Portugal would fall, but I thought Portugal would be here and France would be here, Germany would be here, Hungary would be here. I'm actually now really shocked that Portugal's down in third in this group, but we'll see what happens. If they can get a result against France, then all is forgiven. And a result meaning a win. But if they draw, it's looking a little bit, that's not cute. That's not cute. Let's see. Austin says, yeah, the Germany game is in Munich. Okay, so that's good. So knowing that Hungary won't have that home court advantage that they had, I think it's very clear that, they obviously played really hard and have made a good account of themselves, but having full capacity in your stadiums has really helped Hungary do a lot better in this competition. So that will help Germany and help their cause. Hakuna Matata says Timo Werner needs to play. He's underrated. Right now they need goals in the back of the net. And I think Timo Werner has shown himself to be somebody who can get into good positions, makes good runs, but lacks some end products. So based on what has happened in this last game, I think you keep the same front three of Mueller, Gnabry, and Havertz. And if they don't do it, then you consider bringing him in. But right now, I don't think you change it. Austin says Mbappe is going to have a field day against Portugal's defense, especially on that left-hand side. I'm telling you, Semedo coming up against Mbappe just seems so scary. And so I don't know what they're going to do about that. They have to recognize the danger before the game starts. They have to figure out something. Sean says, this what the group of death is supposed to look like, in my opinion. I think what I like about it is it's not predictable, and every single game has been poppin'. That's what we want, right? Shikasi says depends on the other groups, the other third places, exactly. So it really just depends, and I really kind of want to make more predictions. I want to see what happens because, it's looking peak. It's looking peak. What we'll probably do, I'll see what the guys are up to meaning Harry and George, and see if we can maybe come together and do a Euro show where we kind of predict who's going to come in each position and kind of talk more in depth about the scenarios that can come about based on the table. Don't have enough time to do it today, but I think we need to look at the third place spots and see what could happen from there, because it's looking a little peak. Yeah, you guys. So okay. So let me just say that I love like British slang, and like I try to like drop it in whenever I can and try to seem as natural as possible. It's definitely not natural because it's not something I would normally say, but I love peak. I like for F's sake. I like that as well. So some of your guys' slang is so cool. Like I don't want to be British, but like if I could just take some of the slang and you guys could just let me have that, I would love that. Yeah, I can't say the in it because that doesn't sound right, but I would use that as well if I could. Sean says from tomorrow is knockout football, which it will be more open, hopefully. Yeah, so we'll see what I can get together and see if I can get the guys together to do like an impromptu, really quick show talking about like what we're going to be doing, what's going to happen with these third place teams. It's looking crazy, isn't it? France didn't look good today. Germany, Italy final. I mean, I wouldn't count France out. Germany didn't look good against France, so let's not count France out. But I'm just looking, you guys are making fun of me. So funny. But yeah, France didn't look good against Hungary, but Germany didn't look good against France, so it's still wide open. I wouldn't say that it's a foregone conclusion. I'm still looking at Belgium as a team that needs to be watched because they look kind of dangerous, and now they have Kevin De Bruyne back, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yep, I've said jarring before. I can't the them way there and them boy there and all that kind of stuff. I'm not there. I'm not there yet. I love Top Boy though, and I like that show because I like the accents, obviously, and I like the slang. So yeah. Italy CBs don't want to see Mbappe. Yeah. So I think it's a little early to kind of predict the final. I think at first we were thinking it was going to be France and whoever, and now we're thinking it's going to be Italy and so. I don't think Italy has come up against anybody as well. Switzerland was okay, but we'll see. Yeah, you guys are making fun of me now. Now I'm not ever going to say anything ever again. So yeah, but that's going to be it for this, you guys. I enjoyed it. Nice match reaction. That was a really good game. I loved it. Make sure you guys liked it. Yes, I have been to London many, many times. Many times. So like the video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you guys come back at 10 p.m. UK time to talk Andre Silva, transfer show. And the next few watch-alongs will be, I'm doing one for France, Portugal. I'm doing one for Brazil and Colombia. And so those are for sure ones that I'm doing. And if I can throw a couple more in there, I will. So I'll definitely talk to you guys later. Lone Star, where have you been? Where have you been, man? Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys a little bit later. And yeah, talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.